Welcome, team, for another episode of the Rugby League Lounge weekly show. And I'm more than happy to welcome Hayden from the Entertain House. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. We've got footy back. We've had round one. I'll be honest, I think we've got some stinkers this week in round two. So wish we could skip it and go to round three, but doing good. And we've got to get through another days without four days without rugby league. So that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
challenge.
I'm sure we'll survive, mate. I'm sure we'll survive. But hey, let's get into last weekend. We won't worry too much about the stinkers ahead. We'll reflect on, first of all, potentially, we're having a look at the grand final already and the first game of the season, the Storm and the Rabbitohs. And I'll just start off here. I asked the people watching this, if you've got things you want us to talk about, I'll always be putting it on my story. Takeaways from the games. If you put your takeaways there, you'll get a mention here on the weekly show. So just to start off with, Sam Kosak said the Storm are fine without Cameron Smith. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that the big thing is this is the Storm with Brandon Smith rather than Harry Grant. So that's a really scary thought, but they just fired up and came straight out of the bat. They looked really good, and obviously they're coming off being premiers. There was a lot of people, including myself, tipping Souths to win this game. But yeah, the Storm just fine without Cameron Smith. You could definitely say that. I think the big thing with the Storm we've got to take into account is I don't think it's all Cameron Smith. I think it is the Craig Bellamy's coaching, the setup that they've got, the culture of the club. There's so many takes, but the Storm are definitely looking good for years to come.
Yeah, it feels odd. I'm a Melbourne Storm fan, so it's hard not to kind of put that bias there. But it's hard to think that I still have them as my, top team to beat when you think you're taking away potentially, arguably the greatest, definitely the greatest hooker of all time, if not the greatest player of all time. But like you said, they've just got the systems in place, and I think, to be fair, Craig Bellamy, you could argue he's the most valuable figure in rugby league. He's proven it. Smith's gone. Slater went, Cronk left, and it wasn't all smooth sailing, but hey, they got a premiership without the end, and I think they're gonna. They might not get premiership without Smith, but they're going to find ways to succeed as well. And also, League of Inches, who joined me for the episode last week. He said fullback could well be the key position in 2021. Obviously, this comment come on the back of Latrell Mitchell and Ryan Pappenhausen putting an absolute, masterclass. What do you believe? Do you believe fullback's kind of now the key position in rugby league, or do you think it kind of differs depending on team to team?
I think it definitely differs. The hooker role is extremely important as well as the halves, in my opinion, over the fullback. The fullback definitely has a lot more pressure with the game being faster now. I feel like fullbacks like Tedesco, Pappenhausen, they're getting more and more ball. They used to kind of sit back and wait for plays to happen, but now they have to create those plays. So it's becoming more important as the days go on. But at the same time, I'd still argue that those other positions are probably in front. Even the forwards, their position of laying the platform and getting downfield to get those plays, I would argue that the front row forwards are extremely crucial to the team. We've seen the Roosters, how good they were without Boyd Cordner. I actually expected them to struggle to get downfield without Boyd Cordner, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd argue that the fullbacks, the position in terms of skill factor and just the freaks of nature we're seeing, it's definitely like top tier. It's probably the widest range of, top tier talent in one position, arguably. But I believe the hooker position is that one that's taken that bigger elevation because they're able to, you know, because the game is now sped up with the six again rule, instead of having to pass one off the ruck to see gaps unfold, they can pick up the ball and there's kind of gaps there. They're able to sniff out opportunities because they've got more forward momentum. The game's a lot quicker, forwards on the back foot a bit more. So I'd argue that in terms of taking the next level, I think the hooker position is taking that kind of next step. And also the lock forward as well, depending on how you play it. We see now with the Victor Radleys and the Cameron Murrays that it's more of a mobile forward kind of, role that's been effective in that instance. And just on Souths, so I've just bring his name up, just make sure he gets a shout out. James Fletcher, even though everyone is talking about how good Storm were, he thought Souths with possession looked better. what were your overall thoughts about Souths? Do you think,
So
yeah,
it's hard to get a read on them because it's only one round, I guess. I thought their errors were really, really poor, some of them. The kicking game of Adam Reynolds was a little bit off, and Cody Walker was quiet, so their halves didn't step up for mine. One thing that you've mentioned about the hooker position being so important, and if Souths, like a lot of people say, I personally don't even have them in the grand final, if I'm being honest with you. But I think Damien Cook is going to bring a lot to this team this year. I think he's in for a huge season with this whole 6 again rule. So yeah, I think Damien Cook could have a big one. I thought Souths were okay the other night in parts. Their attack looked better. Their defence was a little bit off. Storm were getting downfield quite easily, but we always said that at Amy Park. But I still have the Rabbitohs as a top 4 team. Just don't know whether they can go all the way. I've got a lot of questions on them.
yeah, I'm the same. I think I said last week on my episode, I said I shouldn't say it's all about finals footy, but if there's one team that I think that kind of falls into, it's South Sydney Rabbitohs. Obviously, the whole prelim finals, they've been knocked out 3 years in a row, and Cook's been a guy that hasn't stepped up to that next level during the final. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that can happen. But they got this. We all know they got the side to do it, and there was a period of play there, especially when Benji come on, that they looked, pretty unstoppable at times. It was quite a joy to watch. So we'll move on to the next game. We'll hurry it along again. But hey, it was a pretty good game to start off. So, I don't mind talking about that game, especially when you storm get up. So we'll go on to the Knights Bulldogs. What were your takeaways from this game?
I didn't get to watch the full entire game. I watched this game in parts. I actually very surprised myself. I said that Dallin Waitini-Zelezniak will score the first try in the first 10 minutes. So that tip got up if you were looking at the I put on my stories, basically, my tips and first try score at any time, and did really well over there. I mentioned that throughout the video. But as for the Bulldogs, they had a really nice start. They looked really good in the contest, but the Knights boards just laid this platform that was huge. Now, Daniel Saifidi, he had a huge game. He scored a double. Tyson Frizzell, I've spoken about. I originally had the Knights in my top 4. I now moved them to 8th position. I don't know why. I still think I rate them above other teams, honestly, if I'm being honest with you. But I like what I saw for them, especially without Ponga. But at the same time, what I'm taking out for the Dogs is this really could be a long season for them. This is a team that has gone through rebuild, looks good. It's only round 1. You're playing a team without Kalen Ponga. If I'm being honest with you, if I'm going off last weekend, for me, the Dogs get the wooden spoon. But I don't see that happening.
Interesting. Yeah, I was one of those guys. I have them about 12th before the season started. People were hyping that they sort of signings, but I more like was looking forward to 2022, obviously with Burton going there and Adokar, and I liked the moves they had made, but yeah, I wasn't completely sold on them, and they definitely kind of confirmed my thoughts on Friday night. Just to touch on your Knights side of things, yeah, their forward pack. Look at their forward pack, man. Whoa, kind of like it's. I knew they had a decent forward pack, but actually, when you break it down, like New South Wales forward pack, obviously Clement didn't get picked, but there was a bit of drama behind that selection or non-selection, I should say. Frizzell, and then Walker, who was my tip of the week to be the man to watch at lock. And then he comes off the bench, a bit of a late switch. So that kind of made me look like a fool. He provided value though, and a brilliant. I don't know if you saw his try-saving effort at the end, but he looked good after coming off a pretty severe injury. So yeah, the Knights, I'm a bit unsure how they'll go this year. They looked at predictable at times. Obviously, they run a lot through Pearce and Ponga last year. The optics weren't good out of the camp this year with the whole Pearce and Fitzgibbon saga, and was he going to get re-signed? And regarding Pearce, and obviously he's got the 1-year extension now. But yeah, I rate Adam O'Brien as a coach and was very impressed with them. How he was able to kind of get them to climb up the ladder last year. But yeah, for me, it kind of confirmed a few things, but yeah, nothing too major. We'll move on to the Broncos Eels.
I just want to add, I think we have a new Mr. Fix-It. With Mitchell Orbison retiring, Connor Watson is the new Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he can go anywhere. You plug him in and he'll definitely do a job. But I do think with Connor Watson, I think with Mitchell Orbison, there wasn't any area he excelled in. Where I think Connor Watson could excel as a hooker 13, especially coming off of impact. So I think the ceiling's higher with Watson, but I definitely understand what you mean. Yeah, we'll just move on to the Broncos Eels. Yeah, great point, by the way. And obviously the Broncos, they look red hot, 16-0 at the break, and then the Eels come back. Your mighty Eels. I bet you were sweating bricks at at certain points
Yeah,
in that match.
100%. What can I say? Because the Broncos do this week in, week out. They do it in the trials as well. I would say that the Broncos played better than they did, though, in round one than in the trial. Obviously, the injuries probably let them down, and they arguably, I don't know, they could have won this game. It could have been the injuries that got Para the win. I wasn't too impressed with Parramatta. I think for the Broncos, one thing that's really good for them is their halves stepped up finally. Whether they can be consistent, though, if it was a one-game wonder or there's a few games this season for Milford and Croft, I can't see them staying all season consistent like that. The loss of Xavier Coates could be huge for them. Honestly, he's a fantastic winger coming through. As for Parramatta, I think Isaiah Papali'i for the bench was absolutely awesome. Reid Marnie, one of the best games of his career. And I thought Nathan Brown provided a lot of nice aggression. I don't know what I think of this whole Madison and Sean Lane's switching sides. It's different. I'm not a fan of it. I'll give it time, but I don't know if it works. And Blake Ferguson, he looks like he's in for a big season. He's been doing some silly shit during pre-season and in the last 2 years. But I think this is a strange one, but I reckon he might tie with Sivo at the end of the season for top tries.
Ooh, that's a good call. I'd just on top tries, I can't go against Alex Johnson. I think down that left edge for the Rabbitohs, he's his prime to, it's not a hot take because he got it last year. But yeah, because I was a bit skeptical about Ferguson this year, not gonna lie, especially after that Indigenous game. I thought he had some shaky moments, but he was strong in this game. He had some really, really good moments. With the Eels, I think Brandy summed it up quite good on the call and said they were kind of trying to score every time they, played the ball. They were just they were trying to play fast. They were trying to play how you play the game, but they just looked like they were kind of force feeding at times. And they probably got a bit excited and probably not, I shouldn't say underestimated the Broncos, but probably just,
100%. That's the perfect way.
Yeah,
They underestimated them. They didn't respect their opposition going into the game. You've summed up exactly what I think about the game.
Yeah. No, well, we'll leave it there. They did. But
Yeah.
it was, to be fair, it was a good game as a neutral. I can understand. It was definitely would have been a roller coaster for yourself, but overall, I don't think I learnt anything too much about either side. Brody, we talk about roller coaster. I've got roller coaster of thoughts about old Brody Croft. I like him, I love him. Then I'm like, nah, completely. Is he a first grader? Stuff like that. But it was good to see him have a good game, and it was a bit of an interesting little try that could have been with. He obviously put the kick the drop ball kick, and then whatever happened there, but could have been a game changer. But positive signs for the Broncos, but same old Broncos in the end. We'll go on to the next game, which was the Warriors Titans. My only game I got wrong this week for the tips. I would have had a perfect week, but the old Warriors had to pull it off here. And we've got a response here from Rugby League. He's gone on to say, Fanua Blake will massively improve the Warriors. How do you agree with this statement?
I think he's in for a huge season. He's with new partnerships. I don't know if you've heard. It's going to be really interesting because Fanua Blake on that left edge offloads the ball a lot, and we're not sure who's going to be centre now because it looks like Ewan Aitken is injured and out for quite a long time. It's only come out today as news, but he's definitely potential up there for the buy of the year. I'll mention mine when we get to it. So far off round one. But yeah, he could be in for a huge season, this Warriors side. Their defense, their 4-pack's just great anyway to get downfield, but their defense was really good. I'm sorry, Warriors fans, if you disagree with me here, and I'm going to say the same about the Titans, but both teams' attack was horrible. I was at this game. I vlogged this game. It was horrible to watch. The defense of the Warriors was the highlight. The field goal was stupid but funny at the end. But the Warriors' defense looks good, and defense wins comps. I'm not saying this is the Warriors' year. Don't get too excited, but defense wins comps. The Warriors had better defense than the Titans, but both teams had nothing in attack. I want to see the Warriors play a team like the Knights this weekend. Without Kalen Ponga, though, doesn't make it as good.
Nah, good point. Good point. Yeah, I remember also the Warriors. I think even though they were a fish, they didn't drop the ball a lot. I don't, and I remember that game last year where they
Completion rate was 84%, I think, which is
yeah,
pretty
and I
good.
remember last year against the Dragons where they had like an unbelievable like 95. Yeah, it was something
90,
ridiculous.
yeah.
And they only scored 18 points. But yes, yeah, good position's key. But you against those good teams, like you said, I don't know if the Knights are quite in that round, but against those teams where they are going to be fighting for those top eight spot, yeah, you need to offer something. Anything Blake's an interesting one, and just the size in general. I think I put in my set of six summary, they'll dominate teams, but they'll be exposed against some because they'll be able to roll, they'll be able to be too big to handle at times, but then they're just going to be not being able to stop the mobility, the speed of other forward packs. So it's going to be a blessing and a curse at times. But if they're able to get on the front foot early and they get the momentum, they're going to be hard to stop. Yeah. So yeah, and the Titans. Yeah, I don't know. I've tipped the Titans to make the 8, but yeah, it's interesting. I think it's at the end of the day, it's only round one. Brimson for me is just he's a freak of nature, and if he can just keep being a pest, just popping up, just breaking tackles that he shouldn't be breaking, he's gonna create a lot. I want to see more from Peachy. I want Peachy or Mitch Rain to be that guy with
Mitch Rain, outstanding,
yeah.
outstanding the other day. I
Mm.
think he hasn't been given enough credit in a
Okay.
loss. I thought it was the best game of his career. I thought it was absolutely outstanding.
Hmm. Do you
I
think
think
he wasn't getting the kind of support off him to take advantage of what he was doing?
they just had nothing in attack. They just had absolutely nothing in attack. They were hardly even getting downfield. They were getting around the halfway point, giving around a kick, and it would just go straight down the back of Tuivasa-Sheck or sometimes Peter Hiku.
Yeah. Mm.
So it
No,
was
too right.
predictable.
Yeah. Now looking back at it, actually, he was actually pretty good when I think about it. We'll go into the next game. It was who was the next game? So it's completely skipped my head. It
Roosters
was
and
the
Manly.
Roosters,
I'd
yeah.
personally be honest, I didn't watch much of this game. Probably glad I didn't. I do want to say this. If you checked out Entertain House's story, I picked a Teddy double. He scored a hat trick, but I took him for a double.
Yeah. Nah, Teddy. I took Teddy for Dally M this year. I just
So
kind
did
of
I.
I went for the logic that I think he's going to have to carry a little bit more early. And even though you can use the logic, oh, there's stars around him, he's going to take points off him. Well, he proved in 2019 he's able to do it. The Storm guys have done it with Slater, Cronk, and Smith have all collected 5 Dalians between them. I think he can do it. My pick was Harry Grant, but obviously the injury affected that. So I switched to Tedesco. But hey, he actually, looking at that, he only got 1 point the other night.
I know he only got 1 point. I was actually surprised that Tupanua got one. I would have given it, in my opinion, I would have given it to Adam Curran. I thought he was quite good for the Roosters the other day.
And he got injured too. I think he's out for
I
a few
know.
Mm, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was watching it with a mate that's a Warriors fan, and he was talking about Kieran and thought he was impressed with Kieran at times for the Warriors. And not that he was absolutely gutted that he left, but he was one of those ones. It's like, yeah, you can't keep them all, but it's like, oh, what? He would have been handy to have somewhere in there.
A
He's not.
backup utility, yeah.
Yeah. So well, yeah, and then the Panthers, Cowboys. Now you've been talking about getting all your tips right, and I said put the house on Charlie Staines to add to his try scoring tally, and he didn't. He had some opportunities. He had a few a couple of people kind of sliding in and stopping him at the end. So I was wrong there. So yeah, I'll take that one on the chin. But how bad were the Cowboys? They were awful.
You know what? Not in the first half. I think
Yeah.
both the Cowboys and the Tigers, both in their respective rounds, I thought they were good in the first half, if I'm being honest with you. But the Cowboys, obviously 24 points to nil. There's not much to say. I think I put the stupidest tip I've ever put on my life. Actually, when the Cowboys were down 8-0, I thought they might get close, and I called up on Michael Morgan to score a try wearing their number 6 jersey.
Okay.
That was one of the dumbest bets I think I've ever done. But not much to speak about this game. I've got Penrith on top coming at the end of the year, and for good reason, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, with the cows, I've just got this picture and vision. I went to I was in the kitchen and my mate's like, "You gotta watch this," and he rewound it, and it was something awful. Something happened where what's the prop? Francis Moller had the ball and got it kind of panicked, and he threw it to someone that was basically in front of him. I forgot who it was in the end, but it was just like it just summed up the second half for me, and I've just got that in my vision. But there were so many balls that it was just like unforced errors, and yeah, it's just because I've tipped the Cowboys. They're kind of like my kind of you got to tip someone to maybe obviously rise from last year, and it always seemed to fall into the trap of picking kind of looking at their roster and thinking they should be better than what they are and
Oh,
top eight.
exactly. We want them to succeed. They've got that roster to succeed, but they absolutely never do. And it's very frustrating.
Yeah. And I
Very
thought Josh
frustrating.
Hayden would be the one to bring it out of them. And obviously, yeah, it's only 1 year. Like it might be a gradual process, but I thought they've really got the players in place to do so. So that's why I was kind of sold on them. And he's shown a bit of guts putting Drinkwater at the back. And I do like Drinkwater at fullback. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, can't take too much away. It's only round one, but I'm keeping my
Yeah.
Cowboys stock at this stage. And we'll go on to the first game of Sunday. Now, Sunday games, I didn't really watch too. I kind of had it heavily. I just had it in the background, but the Raiders, Tigers, any main takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I thought this was a really good game. The first half I thought was awesome. A lot of people disagree with this, but I really like what I saw of Dane Laurie, the fullback for the West Tigers. He's got a lot of potential, a lot of talk around him. Yeah, he was absolutely outstanding. Tackle, bust, taking high ball. Really impressed with him. I think he even saved a try at one point. Big debut in those Tigers colours. As for the Raiders, they just struggle to score points in the first half. They've been doing it for a long time now. I mentioned a little bit in my review that Josh Hodgson was great, but he doesn't bring speed. He brings skill and ability, but kind of missed that speed that Tom Starling brings to speed up the games. I felt the Raiders could have scored more points. Well, speaking of try scorers, my roughie for the week was Hudson Young, and I got a nice little measly $60 there. Put the tip up, Hudson Young to score anytime. I had him first as well, but that was a good pick. I thought he had a big game in the big shoes to fill of obviously John Bateman. So pretty impressed with the Raiders. And so far, my buy of the year, he had a fantastic debut. I don't know if he'll be there at the end of the season. If I'm going off round one, though, is Ryan James.
Interesting. Yeah.
He was good.
Why I would have steered away from Ryan James is that team is so deep. Therefore, there's a good shot who, if there was forwards ahead of him that kind of obviously young forwards there that emerged, that he could be kind of on the outer a bit, but would, obviously a valuable player, one of the best players I've seen that hasn't played for New South Wales. Obviously was very close. He was basically in the team, and then they picked Matt Pryor ahead of him. But yeah, and I like that. I like Ryan James. It was devastated last year when he got injured. But yeah, I did kind of like a dark diamond in the rough pick where it's kind of like, a guy that's going to be in a team that's maybe not going to have a good week, but is going to be a standout. And that was Dane Laurie to debut. So I can tick that one off this week. But yeah, Luke Brooks obviously didn't have the greatest night to remember either. I'm still high on Luke Brooks. I'm interested to see with him and Adam Dewey. Adam Dewey actually played a lot of six growing up too, which you wouldn't think it. So yeah, no, I think, obviously I want to be optimistic. I do see that potentially working out, but yeah, I've obviously got to see it happen. And Jacob Little impressed me as well. A few people have kind of had high praise on him, but I hadn't seen enough of him yet, so I didn't want to speak out of context and say, oh yeah, no, he's going to be a gun, because obviously you lose Harry Grant from last year, so I'm not going to expect him to be the next Harry Grant, but I thought he offered was quite valuable out of that role. So yeah, and then we'll go to the last game of the round. A lot of people's tip for the Wooden Spoon and the Dragons up against the Sharks. Another game that I just seem to be looking up and just caught a few highlights and saw Duffy running away. But yeah, any takeaways?
Robbed. Disagree with me all you want.
The Ramsey
the Sharks,
try, was it the Ramsey
try? Ramsey try, I'm talking about. 100% game-changing moment. The Dragons, all the momentum. The referee should not be able to. We need to trust in our referees. We need to make a decision on field or go to the bunker. this giving a try, then checking it within a minute and it being on the scoreboard and going through the player's mind, just go to the bunker for God's sake. If you don't, the referees, their job is for us to trust in them and them to make the right decision. If it's the right decision on field, I respect that from a referee. But this new rule is absolute BS. I thought the Sharks were okay. Both of these teams weren't great. The Dragons' defense is an issue. Now, I thought their attack was an issue and their defense was good. So I expect their defense this season to be better than we expected. As for the Sharks, they were without Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson plays. They win that by plenty, in my opinion. But Dufty was quite good, as you mentioned. And I really like what I saw of Ravalawa. I think he's in for a big season. He's very underrated. But I think the Dragons were robbed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I saw it and then I didn't see it. I actually had the Beers and Footy companion, the bloke in the bar in the background, and I was just hearing them react to it, and I was like, what's going on here? And you could see that it was going to be denied, so definitely need to actually go back and watch that properly. But yeah, there's positive sign for the Sharks. I thought what I saw from Moylan, he did a quite a clever little kick to set up Ronaldo. So yeah, no, overall, it was a game I probably would have put. Yeah, I picked the Sharks to win that one. But yeah, the Dragons, obviously, like you said, they were a very good shot to win it. And hopefully, do you know who they verse next week?
They play the Cowboys.
Cowboys. Oh, that will be an interesting one. They'll
Toss
probably
of the coin, isn't it? Toss of the coin.
They'll test a few of my theories about this season. So, and just the last takeaway, and then I'll get onto something to finish us off. League of Inches has said big gap between the good teams and the bad teams. I tend to agree with this. It is hard, obviously, don't want to overreact, but in a kind of snapshot, I would say there is a decent gap. What would you say for this?
No, I'm going to disagree with you. We've got, or I don't know about you, but we've got Rabbitohs, we've got Eels, and we've got Titans in our top 8. Not many, but a few people with Tigers as well. I have them quite low, but I've seen a few people put Tigers in their 8. Now, a lot of these teams, a lot of drop ball, a lot of errors. It's only round 1, and they're not competing with the likes of the Storm, the Roosters, and I can't put the Panthers up there. Honestly, if I'm going off the other night, I've got them winning the premiership, but I didn't think they played that well.
Okay.
I didn't think Penrith played that well. So I can really only say that basically the Melbourne Storm were the only team that really stood out. And maybe the Raiders. Raiders and Storm, for me, stood out over the weekend as the best. And you could probably chuck the Warriors in there, but only because of their defense. So, no, I don't think there's a big gap. I think there's still a lot more to learn and see. But I feel like those teams that will make the 8 have started to establish themselves already with the creativity of their plays.
Fair enough. I'll probably view it in the fact that last year I thought there was a clear top 6, and we all know those top 6 teams, obviously. And for me, I actually struggled to find those 2 teams to jump into the 8 this year, and I ultimately went with the Titans and the Cowboys, and I'm not that confident with them. And there was no team this weekend where I thought, definitely got that wrong straight out the gate. So that's probably where my thinking's coming from. Just I believe I'm still sold on those 6 teams being kind of going to be ahead of the pack. But yeah, like I said, like Eels could be the one potentially. I know you hate to hear it, but could be the one maybe to drop in form. But I don't see it. I think their forward pack's too good, and they've got quality players in the spine and all round. So yeah, for me, that's why I tend to agree with League of Inches there. Now, I was trying to thinking of a clever way to end my show each week, especially with having a guest on, and I think I've done it. Basically, this is going to be called Modern Day Twist. Now, as you're probably aware, Hayden is an Eels fan. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to reflect back, and he doesn't know I'm doing this yet because I legit kind of thought about this a couple of hours ago.
Bang it on me.
Yeah. So we're going to go back to a great Eels side. I haven't asked Hayden if he has fond memories of this team, but I think he potentially will. So we're going to be looking at the 2009 Eels. When they obviously made the grand final with the terrific Hayne run. Now, what we're going to do as a modern day twist is I'm going to refer to 5 players from today's game that you can kind of replace or replicate 5 key figures from the Eels 2019. So I'll give you an example to start off with.
Okay.
Yeah. So like Jared Hayne, who would be the closest to being the Jared Hayne of that form in 2009? You can talk about ability or whatever. So for my pick is going to be Latrell Mitchell. So I think he's got potentially, obviously, the freakish ability. He can get hot in form. Obviously, he hasn't quite got to Haynes' level, but he can wow you with your passes. He's one of those guys that beats tackles that he's not meant to beat. He just pure strength and aggression. So he'd be my guy. So Latrell would be my Jared Hayne of today. What would you say about that?
I want to agree with you on Latrell because he also plays centre, which Jared Hayne played a lot of centre through his younger days. For me though, I'm thinking more towards Billy Slater and who is the young Billy Slater. So I'm going with Ryan Pappenhausen here. I think Ryan Pappenhausen has that speed about him that Jared Hayne had, the ability to create tackle busts, to come out with plays and get it through to a creative halfback. So I'm going to compare the Hayne playing there to Ryan Pappenhausen.
Okay, I didn't think about Pappy. I had Tom Trbojevic in there because I kind of saw maybe that mold, but yeah, interesting. And I was going to do 5. I've only picked 3, but you can help me with the other 2 because I've got a player that I want to get to, but I haven't decided who his best fit is. Now, this one's a bit controversial because this guy hasn't debuted yet, but it's for Daniel Mortimer. So Daniel Mortimer was in his rookie season. He had a great rookie season, was able to play off the back of their great run of momentum and felt comfortable doing so. Didn't have to organise too much. I see Sam Walker being this guy one day, potentially this year. Obviously, he hasn't debuted, but you got to think Daniel Mortimer that was his rookie year. So it's a big call, but Sam Walker would be my pick, just thinking about the age and thinking about what I've seen. I've seen very little of Walker, but from what I've seen, I think he'd be able to slot in there straight away and not have too much responsibility, but still flourish. What would you say about that?
I'm trying to think Daniel Mortimer didn't have speed about him. A lot of the 5'8" in this game have a lot of speed to them. I don't want to compare him to him because he's not as good, but someone who I feel like would slot in and do the job and fit in with the team. I'd probably go with Luke Brooks.
Yeah.
I think Luke Brooks in that team that's not outstanding, but still quality at times, has some really good wins, decent player overall, just not considered as one of the best of all time. Yeah, I'm going to compare Daniel Mortimer to Luke Brooks.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair cool. And my next one, this one I felt a bit weird about, but because I think maybe Hindmarsh was better than this current player, but at a stage of his career, probably out of their peak just slightly, but always going to make the tackles, do the hard yards, not wow you, but heart and soul of that team. Josh Jackson is my pick for Nathan Hindmarsh. Yeah.
I'm going to go, I think this is a good one to compare Hindy to, a workhorse for the team, a little bit underrated. I'm going to the Gold Coast Titans. I'm going Kevin Proctor.
Oh, yeah, like that. I like that one.
I think Kevin Proctor compared to Nathan Hindmarsh for me.
Yeah. Sweet.
I like your pick though. Josh Jackson's a decent pick. He's a workhorse, big workhorse, hard yakker.
Yeah, and I want to do 5 figures each week. So the one figure that I want to focus on is Fuifui Moimoi. I just don't quite know who to put him.
Okay.
Who is the modern day Fuifui? Because I think everyone now has got more of that offloading game, and I just trying to think of the guy that is just going to run it straight and hard. But he's probably, because Aiden Fanua-Blake's the guy that I thought of, but Aiden's probably got a bit more to his game than Fui did. But yeah, at this stage, I'm going with Adam Fanua-Blake. But do you have anyone that spurs to mind? And Junior Paulo's more of a, silky style as well. Even though you don't want him running at you.
Maybe James Fisher-Harris.
Yeah, I did think about him too.
I think Adam Fanua-Blake, I think you've summed it up pretty good. I think James Harris could come close to there in the modern day game.
Mm.
Another player I'm thinking of is the other Manly player, Martin Tapau.
Yeah.
Martin Tapau runs the ball hard. He gets some offloads, some tackle bust. I'm gonna go the Manly teammate against you there. I'm gonna go Martin Tapau.
Okay. Yeah. I also thought about Moaki. Sorry if I butchered his name. Fodawaker from the Titans.
A bit young yet, I think. Lacks the experience, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but at that stage, Fui was, don't know how young Fui was at that time, but I know he wasn't like the veteran Fui. That was definitely his peak. Yeah, that was sensational, especially that try he scored. And there's one more spot. I was trying to find the fit for Kristen Inu potentially, even looking at the modern day Luke Burt. The modern day Nathan Kalis was another one. But yeah, does anyone, obviously I've just sprung this on you, but anyone you can think of that, Jeff Robson, obviously, anyone that compare to anyone in that 2009 Eels team from today's game?
If I'm going off someone like, if we're going off Luke Burt and we're going off someone who can play different positions and goal kick, I'm going with Valentine Holmes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going down the path of Valentine Holmes. He's shown that he can goal kick. He's shown that he can play fullback, centre, wing. I'm comparing Valentine Holmes to Luke Burt there. Luke Burt's my favourite Eels player of all time as well. So
nice.
I guess I'm giving Holmes a bit of credit.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Burt a bit of credit, or
Nah, Burt's my favourite Eels player of all time.
Yeah, true. If I got to go Burt route, it's hard because the guy I'm thinking of isn't a winger, but he's a goal kicker, experienced, underrated by me. Well, a lot of people put him as underrated player, Jared Croker. Purely.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good pick. And we've gone to goal kicking. I like that we've both gone to goal kicking here as well.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, when I think Luke Burt, I think goal kicking. So hey, it's got to be there. So I think that's our 5. I'm going to make that up into a little bit of a thing on my page, and we'll do our separate picks, so we'll confirm our ones. But to run down, I've got my Jared Hayne was Latrell, my Daniel Mortimer is Sam Walker, my Nathan Highmarsh is Josh Jackson, my Fui Moi Moi, I'm going to go Fodawaker, just because I don't think he's quite got the offloading game of the others and well-rounded. So at this stage, he's going to be my Fui. Jared Croker is going to be my Luke Burt. And you've got Pepe as your Hayne.
Happy.
You've got Luke Brooks as your Mortimer.
Yep.
You've got... who'd you have as Nathan Highmarsh? You had Kevin Proctor. I like that one. That was probably my favourite one from you.
Yeah.
You had Fui. You had... Who was your Fui? You had a couple options. Martin Tapau. And then you had Valentine Holmes for your Luke Burt. Very different selections, but I like it. It gives a bit of variety. Yeah. Thanks for... we'll wrap it up here, guys. Thanks once again, Hayden, for jumping on. Really appreciate it. And can you do yourself a favor and check out his page, his YouTube page as well. Does some great stuff, and hopefully have him on sometime in the near future as well.
100%. I'm definitely keen. Thank you very much for having me on. I've enjoyed it.
No issues, man. Have a good day, guys.